I've trained over 2,500 people or so over the past 10 years inside Salesman.com Academy. And we've had 20,000 salespeople and small business owners complete our sales code assessment as well. And, well, after analysing all of this data, one thing became crystal clear to me a few years ago, and that is that the worst performing salespeople all make the exact same 5 mistakes over and over and over and over and over and over again, which keep them from ever having the opportunity to reach their sales targets. Each of these mistakes, well, they're pretty common, and so if you're making any of them, eliminating them is going to be the highest leverage point that you have to increasing your chances of smashing your sales quota this quarter, this month, and the rest of this decade. So if you spend your weeks on YouTube watching hours and hours of cult-like sales leader gurus looking for a magic bullet, well, pull all that to one side for a second and solve these issues first. And the biggest mistake that broke salespeople waste a lot of time on is that they don't have a step-by-step sales process. A lack of a defined step-by-step sales process, well, it does two things. Firstly, it means that you're very likely to show up to work, run around like a headless chicken all day long, doing lots of just stuff, and then sometimes you win, most of the time you lose, but you do every single day end up being absolutely exhausted with not much to show for it. Also, a lack of a sales process means that you never actually improve over time. And this is because the only way to improve your sales result, the only way, everything else in this video kind of follows up on this as well, but the only way to improve your sales process is to use the scientific method. You've got to have something that you want to improve. You make a hypothesis of how you want to improve it. You test that hypothesis. And then, well, if the results are positive, you do more of that thing. And if they suck, then you stop doing it. And don't overcomplicate any of this. Building a step-by-step process for even the most complex B2B product or service, well, it's pretty simple. You can break it down like this, right? All you need is a step-by-step plan to build a buyer list, put that buyer list into a sales cadence that books meetings, then on those meetings, diagnose the buyer's problem, then demo your solution to that problem, and then build a business case so that they can't turn down your offer, all the financials make sense, everyone's on board, everyone's in agreement on this business case, and then close the deal. And that is it, right? Again, don't overcomplicate this process. And if you don't know how to both complete each one of those steps and then organically move the prospect from one step to the next, then undoubtedly you're wasting tons and tons and tons of time every single day. So hopefully you're now excited to build and implement a step-by-step selling process, which leads us on to the next thing, right? And that is that broke salespeople waste a ton of their time because they just don't understand how buyers buy, why buyers buy. So when I ask sellers, why do people buy your product or service? They tend to stare at me with a blank face like an idiot. And this is because they know that they should be able to answer this question, but for whatever reason, they can't articulate it off the tops of their heads, and so they feel frustrated. Now, that might be you as well watching this video. And quite frankly, if you can't increase the buying temperature of a prospect, so this is the energy in the system, the excitement that they have to potentially work with you, if you can't get the excitement to a, yeah, let's go, then you're doing the entirety of the sales process wrong. Because the days of being able to just hand someone a leaflet, send them more information, just to nudge them along, they're gone. That's done via social media marketing, it's done via YouTube videos. It will be in the next few years, it'll be absolutely done by very sophisticated AI agents. So if that's what you're doing right now, then you need to level up this skill of increasing the buying temperature and helping the buyer make a purchase decision. And if you want to learn how to increase the buying temperature of every single interaction that you have with a prospect, then you should book a call with me and see if Salesman.com Academy is a good fit for you. With Salesman.com Academy, I'll personally, me one-on-one, I will help you find and close my deals in the next 30 days or your money back. And if it comes to that, I'll also give you an additional $1,000 for wasting your time. I've set up the program, the training, everything that we do, so it's absolutely no risk and it's all reward. So if you want to check it out, if you want to see if we potentially are a good fit to work together, click the link in the description below to learn a little bit more. Now, speaking of being proactive with your prospects and helping them make purchase decisions, the next mistake that broke salespeople make, and I see this all of the time, and this is something that you should really take away from this video, broke salespeople who waste a lot of time, they are just too risk averse. Most sellers, they waste so much time by being timid. they don't ask for the business, which is obviously fundamental to getting deals done. They speak to the end users of their product rather than the executives that will actually buy the product or service from them. And I also see that timid salespeople, they are scared of talking about the finances of the deal, the money, the exchange of value here that gets deals over the line. And I've got tons of data on this from people inside Salesman.com Academy. We test this on the way in. The sellers that win, and so the salespeople that do $250,000 to $1 million in commissions each year, they are, whether they start in Salesman.com Academy like this or they end the academy like this, which where they get all the results, they are bold. They take risks. They'll use AI cold outreach in our training program, for example, to send 10,000 emails a month when their colleagues that they're just dominating are sending 10 emails a day. They will call the CEO and just act dumb that they didn't know that they were calling the wrong person, so they then get referred down to the VP of marketing or whoever it is, the CFO, from the CEO, which makes then that next conversation a lot more succinct and there's a lot more on the line for the executive that you're speaking to. They will cold call the same person for 3 months in a row and eventually get the call and get the deal on the back of it. You have to be bold. You have to have some courage. Sales is a zero-sum game. I think this is really important to understand as well, right? Most deals, there's only one vendor that's going to win it. You are competing against maybe 3 other companies, maybe 10,000 other companies, depending on how commoditized your product or service is. And so this shouldn't be the case, but it definitely is the case a lot of the time. It's typically the most savage, bold salesperson that goes after the deal professionally, right? We're not used car salespeople here. That's not what we do at salesman.com. We are B2B salespeople. We do it professionally, but going that extra mile, pushing the boundaries of what you think is potentially reasonable, helping people get over their own issues, hurdles, the status quo, all of that is what gets deals done. Let me ask you a question, and I talked about this on a recent group coaching call over at Salesman.com Academy. I asked everyone on the call this question, right? What the chuffing heck are you working in sales for? Because you probably don't like it. It's probably not the most enjoyable job that you could be doing right now. It's undoubtedly fulfilling when you find a lead, you contact them, you book a meeting, you get a deal done, and that cycle completes and you get paid cash at the end of the quarter of the month whenever your commissions get paid. That is fulfilling, but the gap in between those 2 points is probably both boring, stressful, and highly pressured as well. So why the hell are you here, right? But what are we doing? That is the question you got to ask. And if the answer to that question isn't to make a ton of money as quick as possible in a legal and ethical manner, then you're probably doing it wrong. And to make that money, you've got to be bold. You've got to take action that your competitors aren't willing to do. Again, legally, morally, ethically, obviously, that's kind of par for the course here. But with that said, if they are refusing to use a new tool, a new technology, if they're using the marketing material that just was handed to them on day one and they haven't evolved, they haven't improved it, they haven't used the scientific method to test and refine it over time, all you've got to do is be 1% more bold, 1% superior to them in a few ways, and you'll win the business every single time. Because again, there's only typically one vendor that wins every B2B deal, contract, tender that goes out there. So, and this is coming from someone who is slightly more introverted, myself, right? It's coming from someone who was more timid when they were a teenager, and in my first sales role, I just had to get over it. I just had to improve myself. Rightly or wrongly, timid salespeople, well, they go hungry, and bold salespeople, they're the ones that make the money. Now, on top of this, if you want to take more risks, the best way of doing that is just to take more action. Okay, so another thing that separates poor performing salespeople who are not having a good time from those who are crushing it, who are making a ton of money, is the fact that the people who are making the money have lots of imperfect action each day rather than low levels of perfect. And if you spend your time procrastinating on jobs because you want them to be good, because your ego's involved in the process, then you're probably putting out very few bits of perfect action rather than the people who are smashing it, who are putting out tons and tons and tons of imperfect action. And again, this is something I had to learn over the years. When I think I'm delivering a 8 out of 10 value, well, the buyer typically thinks it's a 10 out of 10 and they don't even want a 10 out of 10. What they want is a 6 out of 10 and they just want it done. They just want it in the inbox. They just want the value delivered and they don't really really care about all the extra effort and energy that I'd put into, whether it be a cold email outreach, whether it be a diagnosis call, whether it be building a business case. I would always go above and beyond in all the wrong places. Where I should have been doing is going above and beyond and being bold, delivering ROI, delivering value. Instead, I was going above and beyond in a bunch of stuff that was pretty and perfect that just nobody cared about. And this is important because no one can buy from you unless you get in front of their faces. And so the more faces you get in front of, inevitably, the more revenue that you're going to drive. Okay, so now that you're taking more imperfect action, there's one last mistake that holds salespeople back from massive success. And that, unfortunately, is just who they are as a person. Right, get a piece of paper, get your phone out, jot this down. Before you can hit your sales goals, you need to become the person who is capable of hitting your goals. Let me say that again, because this was crazy impactful when I wrapped my head around this. Before you can hit your sales goals, you need to become the person who is capable of hitting your goals. And when I first understood this, not just in sales, just in life in general, everything changed. Think of it like this, right? The current version of you is unable to enter and travel down the tunnel to sales success. And so the only way to get through that tunnel, to enter it and to get to the other side, is to become the better version of yourself that can make it happen. This, quite frankly, in sales, in sport, in business in general, this is why winners win. Winners are capable of being malleable, of improving themselves, of changing themselves, of adapting to new situations, of essentially change. They're not static. They will become the person that is capable of getting that job done. And this might be the bottleneck that's stopping you from having sales success right now. Because if you're not the person who's capable of having success, it doesn't matter how much energy you put into the system, it doesn't matter the hours that you work, you're never going to get there. And so it's much easier to change yourself, to become the person who has success every single time, day in, day out, the person that wins every single deal, every opportunity that comes up. And again, to do this, you just need to be 1% better than your competition and 1% better than not taking, or the prospect not taking any action whatsoever and staying within the status quo. You've just got to be a little bit better than, again, competition and status quo. And that is the person who has success every single time. There are people in Salesman.com Academy, there are people I work with outside of the academy as well in different roles over the years who just win. And they win and win and win over and over again because they've become the person that has success in that job, that sport, that position, that business, the charity work that people do as well, whatever it is. They become the person who's capable of having massive success. And over at salesman.com, over 20,000 salespeople and small business owners have completed our sales code assessment. And that allowed us to pull all the data that we needed to write this book, The Sales Code. We identified the 18 sales traits, the personality traits, everything that you need to become the person to hit quota every single time. You can grab a free copy of this over at salesman.com or by clicking the link in the description below this video. But that is how you make that transformational leap. If you want to become the person who hits quota every time, there are 18 things that you need to do, to have, to be, to develop. And once you get all that nailed, typically people go from average to awesome in weeks. This isn't something that takes years, decades to implement because, quite frankly, your competition probably are terrible. Most salespeople they don't know what they're doing. They've not implemented, as we've covered in this video, a process. They're not bold, they're timid. Everything we talked about in this video is why just a few simple tweaks to your game, who you are as a person, your skill set is what leads to massive leaps in sales performance almost overnight. A couple of weeks in, and most people inside Salesman.com Academy, they've had transformation beyond what they thought was possible coming into the program. That's why the majority of the students inside Salesman.com Academy have leaps in just a couple of weeks of progress that they didn't think was actually possible before they joined the program. And with that, if you want to continue improving your selling skills, why not click the video that's on the screen right now?